Let's dive right into this explainer, shall we? When we think of the wild, our minds almost automatically jump straight to apex predators. We picture massive beasts with the sharpest teeth, right? But today, we're completely flipping that narrative on its head. We're going to unpack two incredible classic stories from the jungle that reveal a very, very different kind of survival guide. We're going to see how the absolute smallest creatures often wield the greatest power. So it begs the question, who truly rules the jungle? Do size and claws actually dictate survival, or do we need to radically rethink our whole definition of bravery? I mean, is there a deeper, maybe more resilient kind of power that actually determines who makes it through the darkest nights? Keep that in mind as we walk through these narratives today. Because, look, the traditional view of power relies heavily on brute strength, giant size, and ferocity. We all know that. But true power? Well, it often looks entirely different. As we'll see, the ultimate weapons in the wild, and honestly a lot of times in our own lives, are a fierce love, a sharp wit, and unwavering loyalty. Let's look at how these hidden strengths allow tiny, seemingly helpless heroes to conquer literal giants. All right, part one, a mother's desperate journey. I want you to meet Chicky. She's a brave mother bird who suddenly finds herself caught in a virtually impossible situation. To feed her two starving chicks, Chinku and Pinku, she has to navigate what is basically a terrifying gauntlet. It's this escalating series of trials. First, there's the sheer physical danger of a blinding torrential rainstorm, then an ambush by massive predators, and finally, an invisible, deadly disease. So while she's fighting through this incredibly heavy rain, Chicky runs into Tony the parrot, and Tony delivers this chilling warning. He tells her, "This rain brings not just water, but starving predators." He actually recounts this horrifying incident of a snake silently raiding a nest during a storm, which really highlights that the storm itself is kind of just a mask for the monsters lurking within it. And wow, Tony's warning materializes almost immediately. Chicky gets cornered by two massive hunter birds named Sultan and Kalu. But here's the genius part. Instead of panicking, Chicky uses a brilliant divide-and-conquer strategy by targeting their egos. She outright refuses to be intimidated. Instead, she declares that only the absolute strongest, most dangerous hunter deserves to eat her. And it works. Blinded by pride, Sultan and Kalu attack each other so viciously, they literally knock themselves unconscious, letting Chicky slip right away. It's just a perfect example of brains effortlessly defeating brawn. Moving on to part two, fighting for life itself. Okay, so Chicky returns to her nest triumphant, having outsmarted these absolute giants. But her victory is incredibly short-lived. Chinku and Pinku are suddenly struck down by a terrifying microscopic threat, a severe viral fever. Their tiny bodies are burning up, leaving them completely helpless. And suddenly, against this invisible enemy, Chicky's physical courage feels kinda useless, right? In sheer panic, she rushes to the local healer, Dr. Chintu, the mouse. But the tension really spikes when he examines the chicks and delivers a genuinely heartbreaking reality. He tells her, "I can give medicine, sister, not miracles. Now it depends on your motherly love." The infection is just too severe, and he's flatly stating that their fate is no longer in his medical hands. Driven by pure, unfiltered desperation, Chicky simply refuses to accept defeat. She flies all the way to Shant-Shikar, which is the tallest peak where the sky meets the earth, and she delivers this massive, defiant challenge to the universe itself. She doesn't beg, she literally demands justice. She screams into the storm, "I am an ordinary bird, but my motherly love is not ordinary. I am demanding answers from the universe." And her powerful plea echoes through the entire jungle. Her absolute conviction literally moves nature. An ancient tree signals that she's been heard, and when she returns to her nest, miracle of miracles, she finds her children completely cured, sitting up and just asking for water. Her fierce love literally conquered death itself. So, we've seen what desperate love can do. But what happens when a simple act of kindness, rather than pure defiance, is put to the test? Let's transition a bit and explore how mercy ripples through the harsh reality of the wild. Which brings us to part three, the lion and the mouse. Now, this is a universally recognized dynamic, right? The mighty king of the jungle and a tiny playful mouse. If we look at the timeline, it starts with a fateful afternoon encounter. The tiny mouse accidentally wakes the sleeping lion, who is obviously ready to just eat him on the spot. The mouse begs for his life and promises to help the lion in the future. Now, the lion finds the idea of a tiny mouse helping him so incredibly hilarious that he laughs, shows unexpected mercy, and just lets him go. But flash forward a few days, and human hunters trap that massive lion in a very tight net. Almost immediately, the mouse hears his terrifying roar. Part 4. A Tiny Friend's Rescue. Talk about a role reversal. The tables have completely turned here. The apex predator, the same guy who laughed at the mere idea of needing help, is now entirely immobilized in a thick hunter's net. All his size, all those teeth, completely useless. The hunters casually leave him there just to fetch a transport cart from the village. The literal king of the jungle has been reduced to captured cargo, just waiting for his doom. But hearing that desperate roar, the tiny mouse fulfills his unbelievable promise. He doesn't hide. He runs directly toward the danger. He climbs up the net and uses the only weapon he has, his tiny, razor-sharp teeth. He furiously gnaws through those thick ropes, breaking the trap just in the nick of time. It is a textbook example of an asymmetrical advantage. Physical size meant absolutely nothing here. But having the right tool applied at the exact right time completely saved a life. In a really beautiful resolution, the incredibly grateful lion realizes his previous arrogance. He actually names the mouse the new prince of the jungle. And when the hunters finally return, the lion and the mouse joyfully rush them together, completely scaring them away. It's this powerful partnership built not on equal physical stature, but on mutual respect and a life day. And that leads us nicely into Part 5, Lessons of Courage. When we synthesize both of these tales, the jungle's true rules become incredibly clear. Brains conquer brawn, just like we saw with Chicky and the hunter birds. A mother's love is a force far stronger than nature itself. The lion and the mouse absolutely proved that no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. And above all, both of these stories brilliantly demonstrate that terrifying fear can be completely overcome by a powerful purpose. Because let's be honest, we all face our own jungles, our own storms, and our own giants. When those really tough moments come, I want you to remember the bird and the mouse. You really don't need to be the biggest or the loudest in the room to win. Take a second to reflect on your own hidden strengths, your wit, your love, your kindness. So, in your own life, will you rely only on your roar, or will you rise like the smallest hero and surprise the giants in your life today?